Okay, I'd like to call to order the November 18th, 2020 meeting of the City of West Palm Beach Historic Preservation Board. Can we please begin with a roll call?
Amanda Schuyler,
Here.
Kristen Kellogg,
Here.
Dan Pickney,
Here.
Gabriel Jaroslawski,
Here.
Ken Breslauer. Let the record reflect that Ken Breslauer is not present. Reginald Stanbaugh. Let the record reflect that Reginald Stanbaugh is not present. Nick Satley.
Here.
Keith Williams.
Here.
Okay, we now move on to approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do we have any changes to the agenda as presented?
Not that staff is aware of.
Is there any member of the board that would like to make a change to the agenda as presented? Okay, seeing none, can we please have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We now move on to approval of the minutes from the October 27th, 2020 meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes as presented? Okay, seeing none, can we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes from the October 27th, 2020 Historic Preservation Board meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Moving on to report of the Historic Preservation Planner.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Frederique Mentner, City Historic Preservation Planner. We've only had 3 weeks since the last board meeting, but staff has reviewed 57 level 1 applications and 12 zoning reviews. And general communications, just a reminder that in December, we will also be meeting on a Wednesday, Wednesday, December 16th. We have a couple items going in front of City Commission between now and then, and that includes our completed work applications for the end of the year that will end up transferring over to the county for the tax benefit for the property owners, and also the second reading of Christ Scientists, First Church of Christ Scientists will be going on Monday, November 30th. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We now move on to remarks by the chairperson. And I have a script that I need to read because we're meeting virtually. Pursuant to Mayor Keith A. James's Executive Order number 2020-05 issued on April 2nd of 2020, the City of West Palm Beach's boards and committees are conducting meetings through media technology and have released the requirements to have a quorum of its members physically present at City Hall. On April 14th, 2020, Mayor Keith A. James issued Executive Order number 2020-09, which specifically provides the rules of procedure for conducting city meetings, including requirements for quasi-judicial hearings. To ensure the ability for the public to continue to participate in this public hearing, it is being streamed live and available for viewing in the City Commission chambers located at City Center 401 Clematis Street, on the condition that social distancing be practiced. Additionally, for those wishing to access the meeting remotely, they are able to do so directly through the applicable Zoom webinar link, as well as the city's usual media channels, including WPB-TV 18, the city's website, and the city's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter feeds. Anyone from the public who would like to provide comment on an agenda item is able to do so through the following: in the City Center Flagler Gallery, by dialing 561-320-3872 and leaving a voicemail not to exceed 3 minutes, by sending an email or video recording to hpbpubliccomment@wpb.org, or completing the online public comment form at www.wpb.org/public comments. Those accessing the meeting directly through Zoom may also use the Q&A or raise hand features. Anyone accessing just the Zoom audio using their phone may raise their hand by pressing *9. Regardless of the method, please be sure to indicate the agenda number or case number for which you are providing comment. Everyone providing testimony must have video capability and will need to be sworn in. The swearing in will occur at the start of each case on the agenda. If you are about to provide testimony and were not sworn in, please be sure to indicate such and be sworn in before offering your testimony. After the applicant presents their case, staff will provide a presentation, and then the public will have an opportunity to speak or have their comments read into the record from previously received correspondence. The board will then go into executive session. Prior to rendering a decision, the board will confirm no additional public comments have been received by staff. For the members of the board, it is emphasized that Florida's sunshine laws are applicable, and you may not use the chat feature or any other form of individual communication to discuss matters with other board members, the applicant, or the general public during the meeting. To lead into this, we need to let anyone know that is viewing this that if we've had any conversations outside of tonight's meeting. So we will begin with a declaration of ex parte communications.
Dan Pickney, no ex parte communications.
Gabe Jaroslavsky, no ex parte communication.
Nick Casatly, no ex parte communications.
Kristen Kellogg, no ex parte communication.
Keith Williams, no ex parte communication.
Amanda Skyer, I did speak with Ms. Mittner about the cases on tonight's agenda, but I can make my decision based on the evidence presented. We'll now move on to the consent portion of our agenda. There are 3 cases on the consent agenda. Can we please have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the items on the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. If you are case number 17-56C, 2111 South Flagler Drive, case number 20-69, 314 Plymouth Road, or case number 20-63, 715 New York Street, your case has been approved. Thank you. Moving on to new business, we'll begin with case number 20-66, 223 Belmont Road.
Madam Chair, that should be everybody for the first case.
Okay.
It's just you? Sorry, I just wanted to confirm that John Melhorn's the only one. Okay.
You raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful.
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
So John, if you'll make the presentation for your case, and then I'll go after you.
Okay, great.
Great, thanks.
Let me share my screen here. All right, can everyone see this all right? All right, so my name is John Melhorn, for the record. I'm presenting 223 Belmont Road, this case number 20-66 for Herb and Cindy May. This project is a ad valorem application. It is a renovation to an existing Monterey style structure on Belmont Road. This is an existing survey of the lot. It shows the existing home, the pool in the backyard, which has actually been demolished, and then a non-contributing one-story accessory structure in the back. This is the front facade. You can see here the brick first floor story, and then the second floor is wood clad and then has a very low, slope pitched asphalt shake roof. This would be moving around to the right. So this is the east facade, and you can see a picture of the back and the accessory structure. And this is the rear of the house. So here's the main house. The accessory structure would be off to the side, not pictured. And this is a laundry room addition that we'll talk about. And then continuing moving around this house is the west facade. This is that laundry room addition. This is a side door. And then you can kind of see a bit of the street there. And then this is a photograph of the accessory structure. This is the streetscape and context plan. So it shows how the house fits into the neighborhood. You may have seen on the survey, it's a multiple parcels put together. So it's a rather nice sized lot. But this specific context zoning regulation for this actually is rather restrictive compared to some other areas, which is nice. So it's going to keep the openness of this lot, which is really the part of that character of the street particularly. And you can kind of see as it moves from these kind of low one-story ranch homes, and it steps up to a few taller Mediterranean-style houses as you get closer to Olive, excuse me. This is the proposed plan that we have here. We are proposing to eliminate the circle drive in the front. I will say quickly, one of the things that Frederic mentioned is these both need to be 10 feet, and we have a landscape architect who will be providing a full plan and addressing that. But for the most part, we are obviously keeping the existing footprint of the main house, and the majority of the addition is happening at the rear of the house. So we're adding on to the back here, as well as extending this a bit. And then we are removing the laundry room addition and adding a new laundry room that's up to grade with this. And then in the back, we'll be reconstructing this accessory building as a 2-story structure. I'm sure for
John, I'm not sure if it's just me, but I lost your audio for a second.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so here I have the existing first floor plan and then the proposed floor plan for these two structures. The existing house has a 2-story porch, living room, sunroom, and then on the back side here is this added on laundry room, which we could kind of tell by looking at the construction context clues that this is a later add-on. It's not at the same height slab-wise as the main house. Also, the construction methods are different. This building uses corner boards instead of mitered horizontal boards, and it also has vinyl windows. Same as the sunroom also looks like at least later in. The windows are aluminum, not wood like the rest of the existing residence. Second floor plan here, it was a simple 3-bedroom upstairs. We're really keeping that party of 3 bedrooms. We're just adding a bump out here, and then we're putting a flat deck over the lower area that we've added on. I think this plan is actually pretty telling of what was really occurring here. So you can see we're adding on the laundry room, and then we're coming out over the back with that addition there. Here, this is the front elevation. So on the bottom here, we have the existing elevation. You can see the sunroom here, the 2-story front entry porch, and then that laundry room addition on the rear. Kind of I would say the key significant changes that we're making are removing this flat deck and decorative railing above this part, bringing it back to a pitched roof. And then in keeping with the Monterey that we looked at some precedent examples, as well as there's other great examples on this street. It really has a really nice, that nice consistent character of the houses on this street, is turning this balcony back into a cantilevered balcony. I had spoken with Frederic as well as a few neighbors on the street. We were not able to find photographic evidence of it, but we had some anecdotal evidence that this entry was at one time different and potentially cantilevered versus having this porch. And then here you can see the laundry room addition that we've added onto the west side. So then coming around the back of the house, you can see this is where maybe more of the significant changes are. So with the addition that we've added on, we're coming in here with this terrace, as well as the little ad that we've popped off of this. We've dropped the roof line on the side to kind of accentuate the fact that it's added. And then we're coming back here again with this is our added laundry room. I know one of the things that Frederica and I spoke about at the beginning was using this kind of parapeted roof. One of the reasons that we chose to go with that is because we would like to save these windows that are on this is the existing, would be the west facade, and we really wanted to save these windows. And when we bring this laundry room up from basically at grade up to the height of the finished floor of the house, it gets a lot closer to those windows. But here you can kind of see the relation of the new accessory structure to the main house. And this is the final facade here on the east side. This is the accessory building, which is going to be just a 2-story, like a cabana with a bedroom upstairs. I'm just including this section kind of for illustrative purposes to show kind of the typical Monterey cantilevered balcony over the front. This would be the new addition of the laundry room, like we're showing here. The dashed elements in this drawing are the existing. So we're coming back, putting this add-on, bringing the laundry room up to the finished floor height, and then this is the other add where, like we're showing, we're dropping that roof line to kind of accentuate the difference between the existing and the proposed. And then one other thing I'll touch on, I spoke with Frederica in our consult, was she kind of mentioned we had chosen to use these windows that match the existing window type in our replacement on the sunroom. She recommended that we differentiate it. So this is a alternate proposal I just wanted to have ready for that. We use a casement type window instead of a double hung window. And here's a colored rendering we put together as well. So that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Questions of the applicant?
Yes, so you understand that there are 4 conditions for the approval of a project, right?
Okay.
Did you review them and you agree with them? Or not?
I did. So I can run you through those. Like I said, the first condition was the 10-foot maximum or 20-foot combined for the front entry drive. Like I said, that's not a problem. We can address that. This front window condition is the other one that Frederic had discussed. And so this would be what I would put forward as our proposal. The third condition was that we keep the existing windows on this front facade, which I don't think we have a problem with at this time. So we'll restore those windows. And then the fourth condition was that she had asked that this door, we think about moving it to the west facade instead of it being front facing. So I also don't think that's a problem. If you'll humor me for a second, I will go back up to the site plan and talk about that. Okay, right here. So the only thing that would affect is that, we would need to put steps and a landing up here. Is there any issue with that being inside the setback, Frederic, to have that?
No, that'd be fine. For the steps, you can encroach because you don't have a covering over it.
Right.
You should have enough space.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't have a problem with that. We can redo that.
And
Which
there was,
sorry.
no, I was just going to say, in the staff report that I had sent you, there was also just the restoring the front facing windows. Was that?
Yeah, correct. I said that. We don't have a problem with that. I would say this was an earlier rendering, but because we don't have it quite like this, but it would match a little closer to what we discussed here, which would have the door off the west and just replace it with a window. So yeah, no, we didn't have any issues with the staff report and the 4 conditions.
Okay, thank you. Another question. So can you explain or confirm to us that what you are doing on the front entrance, right? And there was a porch downstairs, and you are removing that, but the exterior wall of the house remains what it was or what it is, right? And you are just delivering that balcony on the second floor, or that wall is moving?
Yes. So this second floor balcony, I mean, we'll be, I don't know. We would be saving this balcony. So the extent to which it projects out, the size, the members, everything we would restore or save, best we can. The lower balcony comes out, and we would be adding projecting outlookers underneath of this. So the brick stays, the shutters stay. We'd be painting a different color. The elements that would be coming off would be the deck, the steps, these 4 post columns, and also this door surround, because we won't be able to get the outlookers that we want here without that. But we're not, I mean, the
But
roof lines stay and all that.
The exterior walls remain where they are. So you are, okay.
Any further questions of the applicant?
I have a couple questions. The door, the front door, I know that it's not very Monterey to have that type of detail or pediment above it, but I think maybe moving the door off the laundry room area to the side will help. But it seemed like it was a little nondescript for the front of the house. I'm not sure if there's some.
Yeah, go to the elevations here. We would like to, so you can kind of see the difference here, right? Is that this is that existing porch with, like, you're right, Keith, we keyed in on that as well. Like, this is definitely more of a kind of a federal colonial treatment than you'd see on a Monterey.
Right.
Maybe we can look at this detail a bit more, but we'd certainly like it to be some kind of profiled stucco surround that accentuates it. I think that kind of simple detailing is what is something that you see in the Monterey style.
Yeah, I see it here, and I just didn't really see it in the rendering, but I see it there. And then you guys chose not to wrap the back of the house in brick, just run the clap all the way down.
Yeah, so again, I'll spin around the back here. Yeah, and part of that reason is because we are, this is the original, and because we are moving north, we're coming outboard of that. We wanted to, again, differentiate the fact that this was a new addition versus trying to completely conceal that, trying to match it too closely.
Got it. And I'm sorry, one more thing. Did you talk about the roof and the material?
We're going to come back with the asphalt shake, like what's there now.
Thank you.
One more question. Can you explain why the decision, besides the fact that I understand that the master bedroom has the door now on the north side, right? But why changing the location of the terrace, if the terrace was original to the house?
Are you talking about the front? I'm sorry,
the down below. So if you go to so you see the terrace on the left, on the right, the terrace on the right hand side.
Yeah, no, I know. Oh, on this one.
Yeah.
I didn't see a lot of examples of that kind of that rail. I would say it was truly made on an aesthetic choice. It wasn't anything that I had a historical precedent for. I just didn't, I wish I had some other pictures of the houses on this street, because all of them kind of have that low pitched roof. For the lower elements, you have the main body of the house, and then you have the wings, and they all have these lower pitched roofs. And I had not seen any examples either locally or, through precedent that had something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions of the applicant?
Yes, I have a question. The brackets underneath the second floor balcony, are those decorative or are they load bearing?
Both.
They're both.
I mean, they'll be here. I can zoom in on it for you. I only say decorative because they will be like a profiled outlooker, and they're large. They're I think they're actually 5x9, so they're quite substantial.
Okay.
And they are profiled, but they will use that to help support the structure. Yes.
Okay. You said that anecdotally, there was an indication that that's what was there before. Did you, in any of your investigations, did you find any shadows of previous supports like that?
We haven't undertaken interior demolition yet of this project, but what I will say is there's a resident historian on the street that's rather well known. I don't know, I shouldn't probably name names, but she mentioned to us as well that, to her recollection, the front door used to have elliptical or semicircular steps, and she said that also was why she was recalling that it didn't have a front porch. So I can't say that this is not a restoration, certainly.
Right. Mhm.
But you can see here, we've come back with these kind of elliptical steps and a landing here instead of the porch.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions of the applicant? Mr. Melhorn, I have some concerns about that door surround. You've studied the other houses on the street.
Yeah, we looked at them.
So 210 Belmont has a very similar door surround, and the outriggers are actually touching the top of it. So that leads me to believe that this is likely an original feature, and it is a form of a colonial style architecture. So I think that while it may be perhaps more ornate than what might be seen on other Monterey's, the fact that there's a home directly across the street that was likely developed at the very same time has a very similar feature. It gives me pause about the removal of that feature.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I know exactly the house you're talking about. It's kind of a yellow colored house with the black shutters. I think it is something that I spoke to about Frederick as well in our consult, that I was aware that that could potentially be an issue. I don't have a problem necessarily with looking at it and modifying it and seeing if we can reuse it.
Okay, so you would be amenable if that was a condition of approval?
Yeah, I'd like it. Is it possibly something that I can leave up to Frederick as like a staff approval, staff review type thing, instead of it being wholly like I would just like the opportunity to like study that a little bit more in depth.
In what way? Redesigning it rather than retaining the original, or what do you mean by that?
Sure, let me go back up to the photograph here. What I mean by that is I'd like to see how the outlookers interact with it, right? Because I wouldn't want to do something that really clashes with it, and I don't know, you'd be undermining the quality of it by trying to get these outlookers in. Because like I said, they come down 9 inches, and I also don't know what the structural requirements are going to be to support this porch. So that's what I'd like the opportunity to like kind of study what the ramifications are of keeping that piece.
Okay, well, I'll discuss that with Ms. Mittner during her staff report, but thank you for being open to it, because I do believe that that's most likely an original feature.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Mittner?
I will pull up my presentation as well. Okay. Can everyone see the screen?
Yep.
Great. So Frederick Mittner presenting also for 223 Belmont Road. As was noted, it is a contributing structure in the El Cid Historic District on the north side of Belmont between South Olive Avenue and Flagler Drive. And it was built in 1940 by Burnup and Sims. And this is a current photo of the house and kind of a zoomed in, specifically looking at the detail here, the door surround that was just mentioned. And that was something that we had discussed on the phone, and the applicant was going to see if they could find evidence if it existed or not. One of the suggestions is perhaps this component could be lowered a bit to still retain the side elements. So just a suggestion as the board explores how to address the surround with the applicant. This is the context of the house, and Belmont in general has a lot of Monterey styles. So the request this evening is for really two parts: the accessory structure, which is the demolition of the existing one-story accessory in the northwest corner, and the construction of an approximately 837 square foot two-story structure in more or less the same location, meeting the required setbacks of 5 feet off the rear and 5 feet off the side. For the primary structure, there is going to be some selective demolition of the rear kitchen, dining, and laundry room, demolition of the front porch. I have also been told by residents of the neighborhood that it had just a cantilevered balcony in the traditional Monterey style and not the porch we see now. At one point, I did have access to a photo. Unfortunately, I could not locate that again. But I have seen an image where it was just the balcony. The request is also to add the family room, kitchen, and a new laundry room in the similar location as you saw, and reconfigure that upstairs balcony with the addition of outriggers, as well as the request was for replacement of all windows and doors, as well as interior and site work. This is the house that we were just discussing, which also has the outriggers that rest right on top of that surround piece, and has a lot of these elements that were discussed, including a sloped roof here. And this photo's courtesy of a neighbor, and just showing again the Monterey style that was back, I think, in 1956, that was prevalent on the street, or is still prevalent on the street. So the site plan that you've seen, again, the majority of the work is in the northwest corner, as well as the rear and west side of the house. The application meets all the zoning requirements, and you've seen the application and the elevations. As was already mentioned, staff's concerns were with these windows to, instead of reading like an interior wing, that it was originally there to maintain a more open fenestration pattern. We saw no concerns about changing the roof line there because it actually kind of reduced the massing of it and was compatible with the style. We did have some concerns with the front facing door, and as you saw, that was a condition to relocate it to the side, as well as retaining the front facing windows to the south. Here are the other elevations. We feel this opening really reads as a sunroom would have leading into the backyard. We think that works. The rear elevations, the elevations for the proposed accessory structure also are very compatible with the use of siding, as well as the scale of the laundry room and rear two-story addition. So again, some of the other elevations for the accessory structure. And we felt the rendering really was the most representative of what the future additions and modifications should look like, with, again, these larger windows. I know John just showed you a revised rendering, a more updated one, but this was the one with the original submittal. And again, it reads as a larger opening, retains the surround, has the side door. Some of those elements are shown in this. So we do believe the application meets the Historic Preservation Ordinance and Secretary Interior Standards 6, 9, and 10. We just ask that the board consider the 4 that have already been discussed. The door, the redesign of the driveway, not just to meet the zoning code, but also kind of to reflect the rhythm of the street, because there really is no other home that has 2 access points, and certainly not a motor court. So just addressing how that front yard is addressed with the vehicular traffic. The window styles, and then the south or front facing windows restored rather than replaced. Thank you.
Questions of staff?
Ms. Midner?
Yes.
I have 2 questions. First of all, because there's a demolition, will that require 2 motions?
For an accessory structure, we traditionally have not done that as a separate motion,
Okay.
but I'll leave that to the board attorney.
Okay, and secondly, the conditions called for the preservation, or I should say the restoration of the windows and the south-facing portion of
Yes.
the structure. That packet that you sent to us had, you know, a listing of the conditions of all the windows, and they had recommended, if I recall correctly, that all of them be replaced. Yet with the photographs that I saw there didn't seem to be significant, you know, damage to the windows. There were, you know, places where the paint was peeling, I guess due to condensation collecting there, you know, below the buttons and so forth. And so my question is, did you find that there's any reason to preserve any of the other windows and the other views of the other sides of the house?
Well, of course, it would always be ideal that all windows are preserved. However, the policy that the board has adopted and that staff has been working with is that we restore front-facing windows where they're visible from the public right away. And we felt that was a good compromise where you get the impact protection and some of the other possible benefits of a new window in terms of insulation and noise. But again, it's not visible from the street. So we thought this was an appropriate compromise.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
In response to your question about the motions, either 1 or 2 would be fine. It is your preference.
Thank you.
Before anyone makes a motion, I did want to ask about the drive, Frederic. I didn't see that you had requested it not be a circular drive. I do know on that street, I think it's 195 Belmont as well, which is the kind of salmon colored, red colored, terracotta colored Monterey style. That house has, which was kind of also one of the houses that we used as the precedent. I can actually pull that up, I think, on Google Maps here if you'd like.
And let me clarify, it's not, the circular drive is fine. It was more the motor court that was being proposed. It was such a large expanse of kind of a parking area in the front. So you could have the circular, or you could have 2 distinct driveways, but not necessarily.
It's more the scale of it than
Yes, exactly.
I understand.
And Mr. Williams, didn't you do a similar design with 2 parking spots on either side of the lot? I can't remember what street that's on.
Almeria, I believe.
Yeah. Yes, I did. Actually, I did it. I've done it several times. It's a great way to kind of, not have a big sea of pavement in front of the house. So I don't mind it. I like it.
So that's what you're suggesting, Ms. Mittner, as an alternative to the circular drive?
Right. So they could retain the circular drive or do kind of separate ones, but again, not the large pad in front. And that's something we can work on.
Yeah, we did do it on Almeria, right? It's been a while.
And then there are, I did receive 2 public comments, and I believe there's a few people who would like to speak on this case as well.
Ms. Miller, I have a question for you.
Yes.
So the applicant presented a revision to the windows that you suggested to be more similar to the existing ones, right? So I don't know your opinion about what he presented tonight. And
I think that met the condition that reflected really what was on that original rendering. I think that would work well.
And if you can go to the drawing A204, which is the east elevation. So I am wondering if the main elevation where they just changed those windows and the back elevation where they have a window similar. Now on the east, we have these 4 windows instead of the existing, configuration, right? So I am wondering if the applicant should change the east elevation also to match all that corner of the house.
I should have included that in the revision, but we did the same. So there's a 3 casement window there in the front. On the east, we went ahead and turned it into couples, so 2 casements and 2 casements that fit the same size opening, and they have the same light size and proportion as the front facing. So that, because I agree with you, not only for the aesthetics of the room, but from inside the room, you want the windows to look the same on that. Yes, so we did make that change.
Thank you.
Great. Any further questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to public comment.
So the 2 staff received was 224 Belmont. James Schenk is in favor of the project, and also an email from Lauren Lahat, who I believe is also online and would like to speak.
Great. I believe Ms. Pullum is first.
Yeah, Madam Chair, just 1 second. Okay, Nancy, you can just unmute and start video.
Okay. Good evening. I want to thank all of you for your hard work. You don't get a huge, and I need to be sworn in. Thank you, Hope. I can't hear you.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the beginning. I want to thank all of you for your hard work. You don't usually get the crowds, but there are a lot of people who are very appreciative for the work that you do and the study that you give and the time that you donate on this board. So having said that, I think I represent a lot of people who do watch the results of your work and are very appreciative. I'm the resident historian that Mr. Milhorn didn't name. I have lived on the street, I guess, now longer than anybody else. And there are several things I would like to say. One is this house is a textbook example of having things done to it before historic preservation. All of the changes made to the house were prior to the area becoming a historic district. And so having said that, it had no circular driveway. The pediment around, and I'm talking going back 35 years or more, the pediment and the door surround were original. There was no front porch. The Monterey's that have outlookers, they're more of the British colonial style rather than the heavy Mediterranean influence. So maybe a lighter treatment would be a better fit. That's what the other Monterey's on the street have. The windows on the porch were changed. They were paned windows and they were changed, and they've always honestly looked like plastic. So I commend you for the aesthetics and the changes that you've made. The front steps were a semicircle, really quite beautiful going up, and it just kind of broke our hearts to see them jackhammered away. But at that point, things were not great. And so, you know, we were still a struggling neighborhood in those days. And I guess the other thing would be, we're very proud of the Monterey's on the street. And I was very happy to hear that Mr. Milhorn had been engaged to do the work on the house, because I know that he does respect historic structures and is a classically trained architect. And so his product certainly stands head and shoulders above some I've seen and kind of wrung my hands over. So with that, this house has needed a lot of love for a long time, sadly. So any paint you see peeling may not be the result of a bad window. It may be the result of just pure neglect. The front of the house was covered with a bougainvillea, so it kind of masked a multitude of sins. That was taken down before the Mays purchased the property. And so it was just kind of a bare, oh my God, for everyone to see. So but it was in bad need of paint and repair and what have you. The circular driveway, as I said, was not original. And that laundry room always looked like a shed, if you want to know the truth about it. So with having said that, I'm thrilled that the house is going to now come back to some of its original features. I really like the idea of not having a back door face the street. The house originally, like the other Monterey's, had one driveway, and obviously to the back, the structure that's requested for demolition and rebuild was a garage. And the driveway went down the side of the house originally. Having two large parking pads, you know, you can do a parking court with some stone and grass. There are any other ways, but it's very odd to look at. And it's, I believe the 196 Belmont does not have two parking areas. There was a tiny one at the house across the street that was originally the show house, and I'm almost sure they may have done away with it in the latest renovation. So seeing big slabs of concrete, even though there's some grass in between, is a little bit not in keeping with the streetscape. But overall, certainly support the project. Want to see a house that's loved and taken care of, and some appropriate changes made to it. Would love to see the door surround stay. It's very in keeping with the other two, both of which have similar door surrounds, and just have something addressed with the parking court, and welcome the new neighbors when all the dust settles. So with that, but it's all of those, the people were very well-meaning. That front porch has rotted from day one. The front steps are, you know, you take your life in your hands because it's wood and it's shaded and it was, you know, sheltered. And so water never dried, and it was it should have had constant maintenance, and it just screamed that it wasn't part of the house. So removing that's a really good move. And so thank you. Thank you for your good work, Mr. Mulhorn. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Pullum.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll now bring in our next speaker, Ms. Lahat.
Yep, just one second. Okay, she'll just need to unmute and turn on video.
Hey, sorry to disappoint you. It's Lauren's husband, Kevin.
Raise your right hand, please.
And Lauren's here too.
Are you both giving testimony?
No, he can go.
Okay. You solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful.
I do.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I live with my wife and our kids in the house directly behind 223. If it were light out, you'd be able to see it through the window behind me. And the property line's about 25 feet from that back door. The proposed accessory structure that looks to be slated for a 2-story structure would effectively form a 25 or 30 foot high wall that stretches about half of the width of the back of our property. You know, the renderings that were just shown they're in the architectural and site drawings, but they're not in the renderings from the street, although I think it will be seen from both Belmont, the front street that it's on, as well as Pershing, our street. And it's going to form, again, probably a 25 or 30 foot tall wall at the corner of what are 4 backyards. It's a 1-story building today that I think was just said was a garage at one point. I don't know if it's historic or not. But it looks to be that
I think we lost him.
I'll
actually the biggest change in this.
Oh, there you go. You're back. Mr. Lahat?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. You froze for a minute.
Oh, a minute? Yikes.
Not a minute, but maybe more like 20 seconds.
All right. Man, I was really rolling too. No, it probably cut out somewhere around where I was saying, I think the structure is going to be seen, the accessory structure, both from Belmont as well as through our backyard from Pershing, and is going to form a pretty big wall at the corner of 4 backyards. Today, it's a 1-story structure. It sounds like it was a garage. Not sure if it was historic or not. But really, this constitutes the biggest change in the whole project, I think, which is replacing a 1-story structure with a 2-story one that is going to be 5 feet from a couple property lines. There's a couple trees that largely cover the structure today too. 30 or 40 foot mango. I don't know if those are surviving or not. I don't think they'll be able to. So I guess they're coming down as well. And so I come back to, with the process, it again effectively forms a 30-foot wall across half of my backyard. If I were to come with a proposal for that, I don't think it would do too well. And so I would appreciate everyone considering just that pretty substantial change, which is one in the project that didn't get a lot of discussion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments. We'll definitely take that into consideration. Do we have any further public comment, or is Mr. Melhorn able to make his rebuttal?
Madam Chair, I don't see anyone else online wishing to make comment.
Okay, Mr. Melhorn?
I certainly hear the concern of the neighbor. I did just want to clarify that the portion of the two-story structure that faces their property is only 16 feet wide, not 30 feet wide. And then the accessory structure itself is actually 2 feet shorter than the existing house. So the existing house is 22 feet and we have this at 20 feet because again, we were trying to make it feel like an accessory. So it's only 20 feet tall to the ridge. It's a little less than 17 feet to the second floor beam height. And then, like I said, it's only 16 feet wide because the short face of it does face the rear neighbor. So we certainly were taking into account trying to minimize how large this accessory structure is. And I will say, I said it before, but it is a non-contributing structure, so it is not landmarked as historic.
And you are complying with the height required by planning and zoning, right?
Yes, we're under the height, and we're actually, I think we're even in the set, like we're allowed 5 foot and 5 foot, and I believe we're just a little bit inside that too, a little over 5 foot on both of those.
I know you still are working on a landscaping plan, but are there any opportunities to provide screening?
Completely out.
Yeah,
That's what
you may have heard. It'll be completely screened, and we will have our landscape architect address that. Yes, it'll be screened. It won't just be a bare house that you'll be seeing.
Okay, so you have some room to plant some trees there to provide some screening from the neighbor.
Yeah, because we're actually, I don't have the site plan here to show you, but there's a utility easement as well. So we're even a little bit farther off of that because they have the overhead power lines that go through that area. Like he alluded to, there's a number of trees and screening in that easement already, but we will add to that to help screen that building.
And I'm assuming there's no way to save the 2 trees that were mentioned.
I don't know exactly the specific trees. The trees that I believe he's speaking about are kind of on, over that power line utility area. So I can't speak to whether they're being removed or not at this time. I don't. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we have, we've taken public comment. Do you have anything further you'd like to add to your rebuttal?
No, I don't, not this time.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go into executive session now. Would anyone like to begin with comments on the project?
I think that, I mean, it's a well-thought design. I think that I had my concerns on certain things, but I think that they were all addressed. So I think that is a good design.
I'll second that. I agree. I think it's a great design, a great addition. I do think this front door needs to be restudied, as mentioned previously. But other than that, I think it's very well done.
Yeah, I think that we should add that to the conditions of approval.
And then in the chat, I just wanted to share so the neighbor would know, Nancy Pullum wrote, "The mango tree belongs to the property to the west."
So then it sounds that that will remain. Any further discussion? I think it's great to see the investment that is being made in this property. It has lost a lot of its character defining features, and it's great to see them being added back in. I echo Ms. Pullum's comments that the work that you do, Mr. Melhorn, is really superior to a lot of what comes before us. And so it's always great to see your projects. I would like to add as a condition that that door surround remain, and that there is some way to find a way to make it work with the outriggers that have been designed. Perhaps further study of the size of those on 210 Belmont across the street might be helpful. Hopefully they'll let you go onto their property and measure, but.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about that. I appreciated the input from Nancy Pullum, and I think she's probably right. And if we look at the treatment of that balcony and lighten the members and lighten up the outlookers, we should be able to save that surround.
Great. Wonderful. That's great to hear. So, so we have the 4 conditions that were recommended by staff, and then to add that as a 5th condition, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 20-66, ad valorem pre-construction additions, accessory structure demo, and new construction. The application is in accordance with the standards that set forth in section 94-49 of the city zoning and land development regulations. The motion is based on the testimony presented, along with the application submitted and the staff report, which constitute competent, substantial evidence. In addition, the approval of this request is made conditional upon the following restrictions, stipulations, and safeguards that I move are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, the Historic Preservation element of the Comprehensive Plan of the City of West Palm Beach, the Secretary of Interior's standards for rehab, particularly standards 9 and 10, the additional compatibility criteria set forth in section 94-49 of the city's zoning and land development regulations. And the conditions are as follows. The door into the newly constructed West Laundry Room shall be relocated to the side. 2, the driveways and motor court shall be redesigned to meet code of 20-foot wide openings total and to reflect the rhythm of the street by either retaining the circular drive or 2 distinct driveways. 3, the window styles in the east sunroom shall be modified to reflect more open space as was originally constructed. 4, the south front facing window shall be restored rather than replaced. 5, the existing door surround shall remain.
Wonderful. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, before we move on to the next case, I apologize for not noticing. There is actually someone in the queue under public comment, Ms. Robin Powers. She would like to speak to the board about 28th Street.
Okay.
Good evening.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I had actually been told that the case of the windows on my house at 430 28th Street was actually going to be on the agenda today, so I apologize for that. But I am actually looking, I've lived in this house since I was 6 years, actually since I was 4 years old. So I'm definitely the historical person for Old Northwood. I am looking to put impact windows on my house, and everything has been approved, but now apparently there is an issue with tinting on 3 of the 11 windows that I want to put on the impact windows that I want. They do not face, the windows that I want the impact or the tinting on do not face the facade. 2 of them are on the west side of the house, and the 3rd one is on the south side of the house. The house faces north on 28th Street. So I don't understand the objection to the tinting on windows that do not face the facade or that do not face the thoroughfare of the house. Additionally, of the 18 houses that are on the 400 block of 28th Street, 11 of those houses have tinted windows that do in fact face the street. I went up and took pictures of 6 of them today. And additionally, one house that is a block and a half from my house that faces Spruce, 3001 Spruce Avenue, happens to be the house of former Mayor Jerry Muyo. and every one of her windows that face the front of the house are tinted. So I'm a little confused regarding the fact that this project has not been approved based on the fact that there is tinting, or three of the windows are going to be tinted, and they are not even front-facing windows.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mittner, how do you propose we address her concerns?
I think since she's here in the building, if we can I'll let Aaron address it. I know there's been a permit submitted. And again, our standard policy is for even non-facing elevations, tinting is never permitted. We do allow the low E coating on the sides and rear, which sometimes appears as a tint, but is not a tint. It is, it's a different mechanism, but may appear that way. So there was never an item scheduled for this evening. I mean, we always had a meeting, but I believe you have a permit in, Ms. Powers. I can come speak to you in a little bit. Aaron, while Aaron presents, I know Aaron was your plan reviewer on those windows, and we can try to resolve it. But as far as tinting, we don't have the authority at a staff level, and that would be something we would have to take to the board.
Okay, so how do I go about, I guess, getting approval, or is that something that is in process? Or
I can bring you an application downstairs and I can walk you through the process, but you do need to go to the board for that.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
I can be downstairs in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Moving on to case number 20-67, 425 45th Street. Do we have a presenter for this property? Oh yes, sir, if you could unmute yourself, please. You're muted, sir. I'm not sure we can hear you, sir. Do you see a microphone at the bottom of your screen that you need to click?
Okay.
There you go.
Great.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful?
I do.
I do.
You may proceed with your presentation.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to.
Are you looking to screen share?
No.
Okay. So if there's no visuals, you can just proceed with talking about what you would like to do with the property.
I don't think so. From the front, no. But we making an addition to the rear yard, around 400 square feet to existing 940. The one-story horizontal addition, and I'm adding a dining room and a master bedroom with a master bathroom. Everything else remains the same. And that's it, really.
Okay. Do we have questions of the applicant?
Well, you know that staff recommended approval with conditions. So are you familiar with the conditions that they are recommending?
Yes, I am.
And are you in agreement?
Yes, I am.
Do you agree with those conditions?
Yes, I know them. There are 5 conditions, which I'm aware of them very well. And Mr. Aaron Graham, Bonnie Grabber, was very clear about every point.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions of the applicant? Okay, we'll now move on to the staff report.
All right, just let me load up the screen. All right, Aaron Borgover, Historic Preservation Planner. Here is case numbers 2067 for an Avalon pre-construction application for 425 45th Street. Here we have the location highlighted in red right here. So there is a proposed about 421 square foot addition to the rear of the existing 946 square foot house, replacing all existing windows and doors with impact to match existing. Replace the existing garage door with an impact garage door with an increased height of 18 inches. And interior site work, 425 45th Street is a contributing structure within the Northwood Harbor Historic District. On the left, we have the property immediately to the west, and on the right, we have the property immediately to the east. This is a photo of the property in question from the street. And here's just a close-up photos of the front elevation, including the garage door that currently exists here, as well as the wood windows that are on the front elevation. So a bit of the site history. Permit was actually pulled in 1939 and was granted for Marion Ward for $3,000. In the middle here, we have the Sanborn map, which was republished in 1952, illustrating the footprint of the house, as well as what is currently the garage. And on the right, we have the property record card from 1962, which illustrates the garage, as well as the property's current configuration as footprints. Here we have the survey and the site plan on the right, and the addition is in the rear of the property. Here we have the existing floor plan on the left, and on the right with the proposed floor plan, which has the master suite and dining room. This is the proposed elevation for the north elevation. So there's a paired French door, 2 6/6 windows. There will be a double face on the gable. And here we have the east elevation, which will have a 6/6 window as well as the gable that extends north, as well as siding to match the existing. So staff has reviewed the criteria for additions and alterations, and it complies with the Historic Preservation Ordinance as well as the Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 and 10. And staff is recommending approval of the out-of-order pre-construction with these 5 conditions. The front street-facing window plus the window immediately adjacent to the front door shall be retained and restored. However, if the applicant can provide at least 2 letters from a licensed restoration company stating that the existing front windows are damaged beyond repair, staff can review and authorize the replacement of these windows with similar windows for the rest of the project. Second, all windows shall be sized to fit the original window opening frame and match the placement/depth of the original windows within the frame opening. Third, the existing wood sashes shall be recycled, donated, or stored on site to preserve an irreplaceable historic resource. And fourth, all non-street facing glass shall have clear glass only or clear glass with low E coating. And then all street facing glass shall have clear glass only. And then lastly, the fifth one, siding on the addition shall match the existing siding and material or shall be hardy board, Boral, true exterior, or other similar product. Thank you.
Okay, questions of staff?
I was wondering, Aaron, I mean, if you can go to the floor plan for the addition. I mean, I am not really sure because probably what I was going to propose doesn't make any sense at this location and may change the design of the roof. But should we break the addition with the existing exterior wall? You know what I mean? So because they are adding to the existing wall, should we break it there to differentiate what is existing with what is new?
That is one way of taking this approach. However, they could use a different material such as Boral, true exterior, or hardy board and accomplish the differentiation with a different material on the outside.
which they did.
The application doesn't specify the material. It does say match existing, but it wasn't clear if that was for material or profile.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions of staff?
Don't mean.
Do we have any public comment on this case?
I did not receive any.
Madam Chair, there's no one indicating public comment, no.
Okay, we'll go into executive session then. It seems that the owner is amenable to the conditions. We'll certainly help adapt the property for a more modern lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Unless there's any further discussion, would someone like to make a motion?
I can make a motion. I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 20-67 for ad valorem pre-construction in accordance with standards 9 and 10 as set forth in section 94-49 of the City Zoning and Land Development Regulations. The motion is based on the testimony presented along with the application submitted and the staff report, which constitute competent substantial evidence. In addition, the approval of this request is made conditional upon the following restrictions, stipulations, and/or safeguards that I move are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, the historic preservation element of the comprehensive plan of the City of West Palm Beach, the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, specifically standards 9 and 10. The conditions include the following. The front street facing windows plus the window immediately adjacent to the front door shall be retained and restored. However, if the applicant can provide at least 2 letters from a licensed restoration company stating that the existing front windows are damaged beyond repair, staff can review and authorize the replacement of these windows with similar windows for the rest of the project. Second, all windows shall be sized to fit the original window frame opening and match the placement of the original windows within the window frame opening. Third, the existing wood sashes shall be recycled, donated, or stored on site to preserve an irreparable historic resource. Fourth, all non-street facing glass shall have a clear glass or clear glass with low-E coating. All street facing glass shall have clear glass only. Fifth, the siding on the addition shall match the existing siding in material or shall be hardy board, boral to exterior, or other similar product.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Your project is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for the staff too.
Moving on to case number 20-70, 3320 Washington Road.
I think Chuck Millar has a presentation for that.
Chuck, you'll just need to turn on video and audio.
Yep, I'm good. Can you hear me?
We cannot see you.
Give me 1 second and I'll fix that. How's that?
Great.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful?
I do.
Are you presenting Mr. Collins? We can't hear you. You're on mute.
Oh,
Mr. Millar will begin the presentation and I'll be here maybe to add a few words.
Okay, could you raise your right hand, please?
I did.
Do You
Go ahead.
solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, please proceed with your presentation.
Is it visual?
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. And with myself and Ron, I've worked closely with staff. We appreciate the time and effort that they've put into this, as well as the board and all the other applications, especially ours. This is a request for 3320 Washington Road by the Curry family. We're going to bring this before this board for a request for what essentially is a variance to the cumulative side setback. Quick summary, Edward and Virginia Curry have owned the property for almost 20 years. Both myself and Ron are here on behalf of the Curry family, and we are seeking a variance to section 9482B2, which is a 5-foot side setback variance, required to have 20. We've got 5 on the north, 10 on the south, so we're seeking a variance for a future subdivision of 5 feet. Proposed subdivision will adhere to all existing lot lines as platted almost 100 years ago, which I'll show you the plat in a few moments, and will maintain the historical character of the neighborhood. This is site location for the property at 3320 Washington Road. And if my cursor can show you, you can see the existing property owned by the Currys is here, and the southern property to the south will be the subject of a future project which will come before you. This gives you a little bit of an understanding of a little higher elevation aerial of the neighborhood and some of the surrounding lots. And I'm not going to go through a lot of point them all out, but I think you can see visually that there are numerous lots throughout the neighborhood. In this, what I've picked up here is essentially 4 blocks that have a 50-foot lot frontage based on the plat from 1924. Again, it's a request for relief from section 9482, asking for 5 feet on the north, which is the minimum. There'll be 10 feet on the south, and cumulative requirement of 20, so we're seeking a relief of 5 feet. I think this is a slide that tells the story of the request. See the existing Curry residence, and there are 5 platted lots from the original plat from 55 through 59. The Currys will maintain and reside currently on the northern 3 and the southern 2 lots, which will have an approximate width of about 52 feet based upon the wall of survey. So the south portion is approximately 10 feet. The north portion is approximately 5 feet. So when this lot is created and for the future purposes, we need a waiver of 5 feet for the Curry property. The 2 lots combined on the bottom on the south side will have to come in and comply with all minimum standards in the zoning district. I think this is helpful. This is the plat from 1924, the Southland Park plat. As you can see, this kind of generally represents the 5 Curry lots, 3 on the north. To the north is to the right, and then the 2 on the south. So that new property line is going to follow right between where my cursor showed, in between the existing platted lots. A little bit of a street view. This is standing in the Curry property looking to the northeast. And this is looking directly to the east from both from Washington Road at the Curry property. The subject site really are behind the hedgerow. I'm not going to read through these because we do have a staff recommendation of approval, but I did, at least for the record, want to establish the compliance with the variance standards, which we meet all of the 10 standards. And I'm not going to read through these and take up your evening. But I think in summary and conclusion, that the 5-foot variance is justified, that it does maintain the residential and historic preservation character of the neighborhood. It does meet the intent and purpose of the zoning district by meeting the minimum 5-foot setback. The lot split will follow lot lines as platted from 1924. The massing and the rhythm of the existing residential streetscape will continue to be maintained and preserved. This fulfills and is in compliance with the goals, policies, and objectives of the city's comprehensive plan. And the application is similar in nature to like variance requests which have been granted throughout the neighborhood in the past. It allows for the reasonable and sensible use of both lots, complies with the residential development patterns within the existing neighborhood, It's value-added residential improvement to the neighborhood, and we do have staff's recommendation of approval. We would urge the board to approve our request. We're here to answer any questions. And again, thanks staff, and I will allow Frederique to make her presentation. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of the applicant? Mr. Collins, was there anything you wanted to add?
I don't think so. I just want to make it clear that what we are doing is really very consistent with both the neighborhood as well as the old one. It's almost a 100-year-old plat, because this division is being done right along an existing plat line. So we are doing, what we are asking to do is really very consistent with all of the rationale that one would have in considering this kind of a request. I'll stop there for now and see if there are any questions of the board.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, we'll now move on to the staff report.
Thank you. A quick overview, because it is very similar to what you just saw presented. The cumulative side setback variance request under case 20-70 for 3320 Washington Road. Subject property is on the east side. It is located in the Prospect Park / Southland Park Historic District. And the request is for a 5-foot cumulative side setback. 20 is required. They're proposing approximately 15 feet, 5 on one, 10 on the other. They just don't add up to the 20 that was adopted under our building size scale mass regulations. So as they've already indicated, it would be right along an original lot line, putting lot 55 and 56 together, and the existing structure would remain on the lot 57, 58, and 59. And this is how that translates into the aerial. So the southern lot that would be created that is currently vacant, it does have about 52 feet of frontage, and that is similar to other lots in this area, including a few over on South Flagler Drive and Washington Road. And certainly, this is also Washington Road, and then certainly a lot on the interior streets. This is the house that's currently there. And then, as you saw in the previous image, really the vacant portion is behind this hedge. Any new construction that is proposed in the future on this lot would of course require Historic Preservation Board approval. So again, another shot kind of from the south, the neighboring property, and then this would be a staff administrative lot split because it is on original platted lots. So we are recommending approval because we do believe the petition meets the 10 variance standards found in section 94-38D6. And these are included in your staff report, as well as have been covered by the applicant. We do believe it complies with all of these. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Questions of staff? Seems pretty straightforward. Do we have any public comment on this case?
I did receive a few phone calls asking what the case was about, but did not have any additional feedback in the affirmative or negative, just curiosity.
Madam Chair, there is no one online who has expressed wish to comment.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go into executive session. As I said, it's pretty straightforward and no one seemed to have any questions. So would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move that the Historic Preservation Board grant application number 20-70, a request by Ronald Collins for a variance from section 94-82B2 of the Zoning and Land Development Regulations, which requires a primary structure to have a cumulative 20-foot side setback in the historic single-family high-density residential zoning district at 3320 Washington Road. The applicant is requesting a 5-foot side and a 10-foot side setback totaling 15 feet, thus granting a 5-foot cumulative side setback variance. The motion is based upon the testimony presented along with the application submitted in the staff report, which constitute competent, substantial evidence. The Historic Preservation Board hereby makes findings of fact that each of the 10 criteria in Article 2, Section 94-38D6 have been met for the variance.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, your project is approved. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, moving on to case number 20-71, 1220 North Sapodilla Avenue.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
For this case, 2071, 2072, and 2073, I think it's best if we present all three together, but make motions for each case separately.
Okay. Thank you.
You unmute yourselves for those who are giving testimony. You unmute yourself.
Gina.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful?
Yes.
Thank you.
Will someone be making a presentation?
I'm going to just comment briefly that this is Gina Baker for the record. I'm the project manager for the Historic Northwest District. This is a collaborative project. It's an internal request. I believe the Historic Preservation staff has a presentation. I'd like to offer a rebuttal at the end of his presentation, if I may. It's just a little different than how you've been proceeding this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Happy to do that. Mr. Borngraber, would you like to proceed with your presentation?
Yes, let me load it up, please. All right, as I mentioned, so this presentation will go a brief overview of everything and then go into each individual property, and then all the recommendations will be at the end together. The first property is 1220 North Sapodilla Avenue. That is the property right here on the corner of North Sapodilla and Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard. Next one is 632 Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard, which is the property right here. It's immediately to the right of it. And then the last one is 620 Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard, which is over 2 properties located right here. So for 2071, it's request for demolition of 3 contributing structures and 1 non-contributing structure within the Northwest Historic District. Or we have building A, which is on the corner, which is a 2-story vernacular structure known as the Pine Ridge Sundries Company, built in 1925. We have building B, which is also on North Sapodilla, which is a 1-story structure built circa 1930. Building C is located behind it, which is a 1-story structure built circa 1963. And then we have building D, which is a non-contributing 2-story masonry vernacular structure built in 1926. Next few slides are just going to be photos of the existing property. Here we have the building A, which is on the corner, just illustrating the condition from the outside. Here we have building B, which is the next street-facing building. Here we have building C, which is located behind building B. And here we have building D, which is on North Sapodilla, but also on the corner of the alley. The CRA did include a structural assessment of this property. These are just screenshots illustrating some photos as well as the assessment that they made. For building A, this is also the interior of building A. The interior of building A on the 2nd floor. The assessment for building B and C from the exterior. Here we have building D, which is labeled building 3 in the assessment from the exterior, and the interior shot of the building. And this is a rough estimate of the redevelopment costs that they presented in their report, which is in your packet. A little about the site history here. So right here is the property in question. There was a number of buildings here. One has since been removed. Here we have the property record card, which at one point there was a beauty salon, a barber shop, another beauty salon, as well as Pine Ridge Sundries here as well. On the left, we have an advertisement for Robinson's Market at 1218 North Sapdale Avenue. And on the right, we have Pine Ridge Sundries at 1222 Sapdale Avenue being listed as for the creamery. These are two photos. On the left is building A, which is on the corner, and building D, circa 1989. And a little bit about the individuals who own this property at one point. So this gentleman here, S.M. Flewellen, he took over the business, either started the business or took over the business. I don't have a firm answer on that, in the 30s and until he retired in 71. And then when he retired, M.J. Adderley took over the business. Not sure when that business was closed down, didn't find that information. But when Adderley was a child, he did work at the store when he was 9. Next is 2072, which is the demolition of a primary non-contributing two-story structure at 632 Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard. These are photos of the existing site from the exterior. Just wanted to illustrate the mid-century railing for the stairwell. A little bit about site history here. So originally there was a one-story frame structure in the back that was demoed for parking. The contractor was Metzler and the architect was E.H. Gothenberg. And on the right here, we have a note from the property record card that the project was actually held up because of the 12th Street overpass when it was originally being built. So a brief history about the architect. He was native of Pennsylvania. He was a resident of Boynton Beach for 12 years. He worked in Boynton Beach as the planning and inspection director. And unfortunately, after he passed away, there was a listing just for if no one claimed the drawings that they would be destroyed, which is in the far right in 1969. The next request is 2073 for demolition of a primary non-contributing structure at 620 Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard. Here are photos of the existing site from the exterior. This is just a this is the property record card, and in 63 was built by Royal Contracting. A little bit about the 12th Street overpass. Here is a drawing in 1965 from the Palm Beach Post. Here we have a couple photos of the construction of the overpass. This is from 1967, which shows the overpass being completed, as well as street marking and traffic light installation. And the building for Sapdilla is located right here. I actually received this yesterday from Palm Beach County. This is the updated project. In my staff report, I spoke of a replacement. It's actually a widening and repair. So the image right here in the top left is option 1 for widening to the north of the existing overpass. Option 2 is center widening, so widening on both ends. And then option 3 is widening to the south. And if that is the case of the project, there will be a maintenance easement, and 1220 North Sapdilla, which is already impacted by the overpass, will be likely further impacted. And this is just a summary of the key differentiators that just goes into the impact of the existing structure, as well as the right-of-way that would be required depending on the option. Center widening doesn't require any additional right-of-way. North and south widening does. So staff has reviewed the criteria for demolition, and for 2071, so this is the building on Sapdilla, the 4 structures. The applicant submitted a structural assessment report outlining the challenges of rehabbing the structure. The applicant submitted calls for service at the property, which are included in your packet, which indicate the significant number of nuisances, chronic nuisances, which have the possibility to hinder the general welfare of the city and the Northwest Historic District. And lastly, the applicant has not submitted plans for new construction, but the property has already been impacted by the overpass when it was built in 1965. Any further expansion of the overpass and or right of way will impact the property and the general welfare of the businesses and residents. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of all demolitions on this property with a condition that a sign shall be installed narrating the history of the property. And there was no new construction submitted, so a waiver will be required. This waiver can either be a separate motion or be grouped in with the motion at the pleasure of the board. For 2072, this is the 2-story CBS block. The property has historic significance due to architect D.H. Grunberg, an architect from Pennsylvania and a resident of Boynton Beach. The structure emphasizes trends of urban development in the 1960s within the city of West Palm Beach and the Northwest Historic District. The property features a unique mid-century modern staircase railing, which has permanent cultivation. And lastly, the structure is approximately 20 feet from the overpass right away and approximately 40 feet from the existing overpass. Staff has determined without a finalized set of plans for the overpass, the impact of the property cannot be accurately identified. And therefore, staff is recommending denial of this structure. In the final recommendation, which is for 2073, which is the 1-story block house at 620 Palm Beach Lakes, the 1-story non-contributing structure does not represent any significant historic value to the city or the Northwest Historic District. The loss of the structure will not represent an irreparable loss. Therefore, staff is recommending approval. No new construction was submitted, so a waiver is required to waive the new construction requirement, either as a separate motion or within the motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions of staff?
So if I may.
Yes, please.
May I go ahead? Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'd like to offer rebuttal to each of the recommendations proffered by staff. With respect to case 20-71, 1220 Sapodilla, the agency does concur with staff's condition, and we will provide a historical marker making notations of the previous occupants and uses of that building. With respect to case number 20-72, 632 Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard, the agency does not concur with staff findings for denial for the reasons stipulated in the previous case. Specifically, as noted, the subject property is located adjacent to the Palm Beach Lakes Bridge, which is slated for redesign and reconstruction, and is a project led by Palm Beach County. The agency is participating in this effort because we'd like to drive the final design of this bridge reconstruction. Consequently, as a part of our participation, we are trying to acquire the properties immediately south and adjacent to the bridge to avoid a formal taking or, if you will, eminent domain process. The alternates mentioned will most likely involve widening the bridge to the south to accommodate both bike and pedestrian pathways. This will, of course, eliminate the frontage road that's what's illustrated in one of the photos. Additionally, the final design may require additional yard frontage, which will impact the front facade of the existing building. Finally, as indicated, this property, along with the previous property mentioned, is currently vacant and aborted, contributing to the broken window effect in the immediate neighborhood. And it too has been the subject of numerous calls for service, for vagrancy and loitering, and it is a continued maintenance drain of public dollars. So with that, if you would indulge me, I'd like to go ahead and address specifically the 7 conditions for consideration for demolition. The agency offers the following. First, this resource is a non-contributing structure, and it is not designated, nor is it significant in our opinion to the district. Moreover, maintaining this resource for the purposes of retaining a staircase railing, in our view, is not a justifiable use of public funds in perpetuity. The resource itself is not listed on the National Register. This resource is not one of the last remaining examples in the neighborhood. There are similar buildings located at the corner of 3rd and Douglas, which was previously owned by a well-known family called the Dysons. There's another structure at 7th and Division, which we now refer to as the Purple Building. If you've been in the neighborhood, you can't miss it. And there's another representation at 8th and Henrietta, which is across the street from the historic Sunset Lounge. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention to you all that we are in the throes of a significant restoration, which is being totally funded by this agency. All of the buildings that I just mentioned are relatively well maintained and are representative in the neighborhood. It's not practical to repair this resource because it would be the last building remaining on the tract of land adjacent to the bridge. The agency believes that a vacant lot would be more suitable to be included in the master redevelopment of the surrounding area. As demonstrated in the previous staff presentation, this property is also a source of numerous complaints and is a nuisance to the adjacent owner-occupied single-family home, which is a direct and ongoing hindrance to the general welfare of the immediate property owner and the surrounding neighborhood. The granting of the COA that we're requesting tonight would not result in an irreparable loss of a significant resource, as this is a non-contributing resource, as I mentioned. In fact, to the contrary, removal of this building would facilitate redesign and reconstruction of the Palm Beach Lakes Bridge, which is long overdue. I think you all will assert to that. And it would pave the way for future redevelopment of the surrounding area. Finally, the plans for reconstruction of the Palm Beach Lakes Bridge will be compatible with the neighborhood edge of the historic Northwest CRA district. So with that, the agency is respectfully requesting that you approve the COA for demolition, and we will consent to preserving these staircase railings to be used in a future design in and around the property when redevelopment occurs. And thank you for your indulgence, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Questions of Ms. Baker?
So all these properties, Ms. Baker, are empty, they are occupied, or what is the status of all these properties?
So the ones that are the subject of this discussion this evening are currently vacant and boarded, and they have been an ongoing attractive nuisance for this agency from a maintenance perspective, as well as calls for service for police assistance.
And actually, when you were presenting, I was thinking about preserving that railing, of 2073, I believe, or 72, for use in a future project. And I think that may be a good idea. Do you know if it was considered or if it's possible to relocate this property, or is not possible?
Relocation is always a point of consideration, but we often in our agency try to weigh the pros and the cons from a public benefit standpoint, especially in terms of use of taxpayers' dollars. And as I mentioned earlier in my statements, there are several representations of this type of architecture throughout the community, and I don't believe that public dollars would be well spent to relocate the structure. Let me just add for the record, we are relocating two structures as we speak. One is at our, I believe it's 360 Gardenia Avenue. That's being relocated from Gardenia to 4th and Division Avenue. I believe it's referred to as a Potter building. Help me out with that, Aaron. Another building that we're relocating here shortly is the Fern Street building that I referred to, and that's at the corner of Fern and Cordrill. That will be relocated to 7th and Tamron Avenue, and it's going to be repurposed for a commercial construction office. So both of those are huge undertakings and they're quite expensive. The relocation is being funded by the developer. I think I'd be hard pressed to convince the CRA board to spend upwards of $250,000 to relocate this particular building.
Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Borngraber. For the building on Sapodilla, your recommendation for approval, I guess, so you're recommending approval of that demolition, but not of this building. Is that based on the condition of the two buildings, or what is?
So that recommendation is based on the fact that the building on 632 on Palm Beach Lakes is made out of block entirely, which is a much sturdier material. This building, for example, is wood frame, so deferred maintenance would have a greater impact on it. And additionally, the overpass, when it was already built in 1965, already impacted the property. It's if you walk down it, which probably very few do, I don't know the exact footage, but it's probably like 10, 20, maybe 10 to 12 feet. So any further expansion, especially as Gina mentioned, that, you know, if this widening to the south is the preferred approach, it will impact the property even more, to the point where it might actually be right on it or right next to it at best. For 632, it's further back. Therefore, unless there is a substantial expansion, which the current plans don't seem to indicate that property will be minimally impacted, or the impact that has already existed when it was built at the same time will just continue as is.
Okay, and isn't it normally the procedure that when we approve a demolition, we approve plans for new construction at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, so that's, I guess, a request is that this is being waived?
Correct.
Okay. And Ms. Baker, so the design for the bridge has not been finalized, so this is really speculative?
I would not characterize it as speculative. It has been already funded. It's just the design portion of it is in the process. In fact, we anticipate really starting that process in full at the beginning of the year. And I can say to you that affirmatively that the expansion will occur to the south. This agency is going to press for a very well-designed bridge that will be a nice representation as a vista into another portion of West Palm Beach. So what you've seen in the drawings that Aaron provided to you were just a preliminary stab. We're going to be looking for something a lot more ornate, and it will most definitely impact the properties in question.
Okay. And I guess, you know, I'm familiar with this historic district, and obviously it represents a very important part of West Palm Beach's history. And so it gives me pause to see, you know, contributing buildings to the historic district being brought forth for demolition. And specifically, you know, the Sundries building there at the corner of Sapadilla obviously has been part of the community for a long time. And I know there are many vacant lots throughout this district. And has there been any consideration to relocating this building, given that it is wood frame and that would not be as costly as a concrete block structure?
I believe my colleague is on the line as well. Andy Zitman can probably speak to the potential relocation of that structure. I would just admit, before I ask Andy to pipe in here, this building is in extreme disrepair. And I don't believe we have a site that's currently owned by the agency that is in a commercial district that would allow adaptive reuses historically to be reestablished in the building once relocated. It would be a significant undertaking to relocate the structure.
And how long has, sorry, go ahead. I was just asking, how long has the city owned this building?
Less than, when did we close, Andy? I believe March. In March?
March of this year.
That's correct, March of this year.
Okay.
And that was not an easy feat either.
I think one of the challenges for us is that, you know, when we deal with proposed demolition of properties and we speak with a private property owner who is, you know, a new purchaser, one of the things that we talk to them about is that they understand the condition of the building when they purchase the building. And I think that one of the challenges is for us is, you know, to, I guess, ensure that we're treating all cases that come before this board equally. And I understand that this is a difficult, this is a different situation because this is obviously, I'm very familiar with this bridge as well. And very treacherous to try to cross it as a pedestrian or someone on a bicycle, and it certainly needs to be updated. I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around that kind of conundrum that we're in.
If I may,
Yes.
Madam Chair, I think the most significant distinction between some of your other cases that you may hear that's coming in from the private sector, if you will, is that this is a public benefit project. And if we do not obtain the properties as we're trying to do through the agency, these properties will be taken through the eminent domain process. And I cannot say to you at this time that the county would consider any sort of relocation conversation on any of these structures because of the public benefit involved. The bridge is also, again, if I may state for the record, in disrepair. It's structurally, it is structurally unsound. And so they will be repairing this bridge, and we're hoping to get a better product versus just a Band-Aid, if you will.
I understand. And I'm sorry, I can't see your full name on the screen. Let's see if I can go. The gentleman that was going to present on about the potential relocation of the property.
Yeah, Andy, it's Andy Zitman. He would be.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Zitman. I couldn't see your full name. It was like part of your name and then a ...
No problem. No, the cost itself, there's a rough estimate for the redevelopment of the structure as it sits right now on its on its location that is there, is roughly about $594,905 without soft cost. That is just to bring up the entire buildings 1, 2, and 3 up to standards of today's building code requirements. That does not include the relocation if that's going to be addressed. The relocation will probably be another $100,000, if not more, because it doesn't have a crawl space underneath, and the wood structure itself is pretty badly corroded with termites, et cetera, et cetera. So it will be a significant impact in order to lift up that building and move it to another location.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question for Ms. Baker. There's 2 properties in between these 3 buildings you're proposing, correct? What happens to those?
Okay, so the one immediately adjacent to 632 is a single family owner occupied home. Frankly, what we have been in conversations with the owner. The owner is very much tied to this property. She's lived there for some time now. And we are trying to negotiate in relocating her to a new home, either within the neighborhood or wherever she chooses, obviously within reason. Certainly, if this property was taken by eminent domain, it would be probably negotiated on what the market value is, and there would be no goodwill, if you will. So that's why the agency is trying to obtain these properties. Once we obtain that site, of course, our intention is to remove it, to tear down that building. The one adjacent to that, 620 Palm Beach Lakes, is a 2-story multifamily structure. We also have been in conversations with this property owner. Unfortunately, the owner he thinks his building is worth $10 million, which is not the case. And hopefully we do not have to use eminent domain procedures to take the property, and we can arrive at a number that is representative of what the building is actually worth. So the intent would be to take that down as well, because we do not own those 2 structures. And then there's, I'm sorry, Aaron, there is a big block there. I can't see it.
Yeah.
What's going on?
There you go.
Move going to the east. There's a building at the corner of this block. If you can move that over a little bit, Aaron, or no? Maybe. Okay. Well, there's another building which is it's a rental unit, but there is access off of Henrietta Avenue to that building. We will also probably we've been well, in conversations with that owner to purchase that property. So in effect, the intent is to clear out the entire tract, making room for the expansion to the south. And then we're in conversations for an overall redevelopment, if you will, of that entire area. I don't know if the massing study and master plan for the area, both north and south of the overpass or bridge, was included in your packet, but there are some very exciting ideas underway for reuse of that area all the way back to 11th Street to the south, actually.
Got it. Thank you.
The concept development plan for the neighborhood was included in your packet.
And that plan, by the way, does take into consideration from Sapodilla Avenue east to Dixie Highway on the south side.
I'm not sure what page that was on.
It is after the presentation regarding the Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard overpass replacement, which is a PowerPoint, and before the structural assessment.
Okay.
This is page 254 of the package of the PDF.
Okay. Do we have any further questions of staff or the applicant, Ms. Baker?
So, I mean, I think that we should ask what happens if we don't approve this today, because what you were saying about the waiver of the, you know, the fact that there is no new construction projects submitted, what that will do to the project. I mean, is something that you can come back at a later day. You know, you need this to be approved this month because next month is too late for the project, or can you give us an explanation of the schedule, or you know what you are looking for?
Okay, sorry, I'm in the building and the lights just went out. It looked like you dimmed for a moment. Excuse me. So yes, I can. Wow, they won't come back on. Okay.
It was interesting.
Oh,
They
there
all
they
did
are.
it at the same time.
Yeah, right. Okay, they did come back on. Okay, so the reason we're asking for your consideration and approval today is because we're trying to rid that particular corner of some very, very unsavory activity that's happening there. And we believe from a taxpayer standpoint and maintenance standpoint, it would be more prudent to have these buildings removed than to have to be constantly reboarding them when they're breached by some of the negative activity happening in the neighborhood. Secondly, that is sort of a proffer that we've given to Palm Beach County, is that we would make those properties available for the expansion sooner than later. And if you were not to approve, which I hope you don't go down that road, we would probably be facing having to eminent domain, we'd probably be facing an eminent domain procedure from Palm Beach County. And I just don't know that that is a prudent course of action at this point.
Thank you.
Do you think it's possible to study further the relocation of, you know, one or more of the buildings? I think you said you weren't sure that the CRA possibly owned a lot in a commercial area where the one on Sapodilla could be relocated.
Yes, I could, but I'm pretty familiar with this area, both from a professional standpoint, and I'm also a resident. I grew up in this neighborhood, actually. And let me just illuminate for you that Tamron Avenue is the commercial corridor, north-south in the historic Northwest, as well as Rosemary Avenue. The agency owns a property at the corner of 7th, which I mentioned earlier. We are in the process of relocating a structure there for a commercial GC office. The only other parcels available that could possibly entertain this building is at the corner of 9th and Tamron, and I'm not sure how the CRA board would fare with wanting to us relocating that building there. That would have to be a further conversation with the CRA board, which also sits at the city commission. With respect to Rosemary, we own no vacant parcels on the Rosemary corridor.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just think about how a sign is such a poor stand-in for a building in terms of relaying the history of an area. Any further questions of the applicant or staff?
Just one question. Usually an eminent domain procedure, that could drag on for years, can it?
Yes, it could. It could, because we would have to, unfortunately, go through the entire legal process of establishing fair market value for the buildings, and it could get quite litigious. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing who's asking that question.
Yeah, my screen was flickering, so I just shut it off.
Okay.
Any further questions? Okay, do we have any members of the public that would like to speak on these cases?
Yeah, Madam
my
Chair,
understanding we do.
we have two people here in City Hall that I'll bring up in just a second, and then after that, I'll bring on one person online. So just give me 1 second.
Thank you. Could you exit out? Well, I guess. Yes, thank you. That's better. Now I can see the speaker.
Hello, how are you?
Could you raise your hand and then state your name for the record after you've been sworn in? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful?
Yes, I do. John Blauen.
Good evening. Please proceed with your comment.
Yes, hello, how are you? I've been a resident right there, live right down the street, Sapadilla and 13th, okay, for 10 years now. And you guys have had at least 10 people die in front of that place, okay? You got a school right there, which is next to it, which I can't even believe it happened, that, you know, people just kept on getting shot and the drugs and the crime. The store that used to be there, the only thing they used to sell was crack pipes, crack screens, alcohol. Nobody really went there to buy food. So that building should not be trying to save, you know, it's like trashed. Regarding the bridge, when you go under the bridge, to walk on the bridge, it is very dangerous because of the neighborhood. So if you guys are going to be putting a new bridge, which I did here, hopefully you guys be able to go on top instead of on the bottom. I think it will be a lot safer. To know those buildings should not stay there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time.
Raise your right hand to be sworn in, and then after you're sworn in, please state your name for the record. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful?
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is Paul Pivorato. I live at 625 13th Street. I'm John's neighbor. I think that it's fantastic that those buildings are being torn down. I think relocating them would be a waste of city funds. I drive by these properties on a daily basis. I live at 625, so I go to the right of the bridge and I go down and I make a left and I swing around to my house. And I can tell you that every day there's prostitution, there's drug dealers, there's people fighting, there's drug abuse on those steps with the pretty concrete railing. You constantly see people using drugs on those steps. When that store was open and in business, like John said, all they sold was alcohol and drug abuse devices. I think that tearing these down will be beneficial to the city, and I think it will save a lot of money and save a lot of the resources. So I'm very happy, and I hope that you go through with this. And that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we just have one person online. I'll bring in Nancy Poe, just 1 second. Okay, Nancy, you'll just need to unmute and start video.
Thank you.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm signed up for this meeting and I've committed to watching the whole thing. And what I just saw is really troublesome. Citing calls for service and showing city-owned properties that have not been maintained does not impress me. It's maintaining an attractive nuisance. This is almost akin to the old concept of urban renewal. Let's just bulldoze everything. And we lost a lot of character in neighborhoods. We lost a lot of historic structures with that mindset. And I'm watching our city go down that road. If you look at Broadway, the CRA was on a tear down kick on Broadway. And I don't know of maybe one property that has had anything put back in its place. So you've got the character that's gone, some of the motels, some of the other things that, you know, where in other areas of the city, there was some adaptive reuse, small businesses went into areas. That never happened. It never had the opportunity to happen. It was just like, tear it down. So now you see signs that say available for redevelopment and nobody's redeveloping. So I don't know what we got when we decided we would just tear properties down without approving a plan for replacement. I actually went into some homes that were in such bad condition 35 years ago in Southland Park, where, you know, you stumbled over a bum sleeping on the floor and you could put your hand through a wall. And guess what? Those properties are all thriving and selling for high prices now. So, and there is nothing about a derelict building, tearing a derelict building down, that gets rid of crime. You look at, you're talking about people doing drugs, sex, prostitution, whatever. Look at Curry Park. It's a wide open park. And that's been an ongoing challenge for the city. So thinking that we'll start just tearing down blocks, and it really troubles me to think that the city is pressuring two individual property owners to give up their property so those can be torn down. I don't see where the end result is not computing to me. We've got calls for service all over the city, and all of the buildings where we have calls for service are not being torn down. So, and this is a county bridge, not an FDOT involvement? I don't know that. But generally they don't pay for fancy stuff. And I think that has been made very clear on several other projects in the city. So it makes me sad that the city, it's CRA dollars are tax dollars. So the city has invested in properties and boarded them and let them sit there. And it's stated that there's not enough money to move the structures. If there's not enough money to relocate the structures, any of these structures, how is there enough money for a new project? And why can't we have the concept of the new project, as the chair noted, prior to approving demolition? And so it makes me really, really sad and very concerned to see us go down this road, and to point out, why should city government get permissions that any of us as individuals owning a similar property could not get? So all of those things, you know, I understand the concerns, but tearing a building down and putting a sign on a property, that sign will be gone. We've lost the history. So it will not establish any historical context for a vacant lot. And we've, as the city, have contributed to the broken window problem by allowing those structures to sit there and look like that. I really hate to see us embrace a concept like this and use the bridge as an excuse when we don't know what the final plans of the bridge are anyway. And maybe a condition needs to be pending, or that approval is not made final until the final bridge design is established. Because I don't know, I don't live in the neighborhood. I am familiar with the neighborhood. I am familiar with, although there were commercial corridors in the Northwest community and in other small communities, there were small stores and other things sprinkled throughout, whether it was a sundry store or whatever. So this is really alarming to me, and I'm disappointed, and I am alarmed by the justification that says empty property will do away with problems with crime, because we have people shot every day, not on a vacant property. We have crime on vacant property, and the end doesn't justify the means in the request. So I'm pretty disappointed, and I'm pretty alarmed, and I feel like the character of the Northwest is being sullied by the approach and the justification that's coming forward. That's just an observation as a citizen who treasures our history. But at the same time, I'm really upset that the CRA would purchase buildings and then indulge in demolition by neglect. It doesn't count. There are no bonus points for moving historic structures out of downtown to the Northwest. Moving a historic structure is not the first line of preservation. That's when all else fails, you move something. So moving something from downtown to Northwest is like, well, here, you can have this because we don't want it over here. Now, they happen to be a couple of them fairly nice structures if they don't collapse before they're renovated. But I listened to Commissioner Schoaf in commission meeting one night talk about the condition her home was in, and you know, you could practically go through the floor, but has been restored. So I'm troubled from a historic standpoint, and I'm troubled from looking at what my city is doing to neighborhoods, and I'm troubled by that philosophy of, we want to tear it down because we've shown you some ugly pictures that we've allowed to exist because we own those properties. If it was on 52nd Street, east of Broadway, we would have done something about those properties. But because it's where it is, we're not. So I guess with that, I will end my rant. But I find that the chair's comments are significant. I find some of the questions significant. And I find that we shouldn't have two standards, one for Joe Smith down the street and another for our own city. That is, this city has a bad history with the Northwest. When the shotgun houses were torn down, that were not supposed to be torn down, and it was issued by our city. It's just one more piece of, in my opinion, taking parts of neighborhoods away and robbing people of their heritage. So thank you for indulging me. I'm sorry that I'm so emotional about it, but I have not ever seen a presentation that upset me more, to tell you the truth. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Pullum. Ms. Baker, you have the opportunity. Well, do we have any further public comment?
No, Madam Chair.
Ms. Baker, you have an opportunity for a rebuttal.
Thank you. I'll take that opportunity. Ms. Pullum, thank you for your passionate remarks. And I would suggest to you, first of all, let me address the notion that we, the CRA, purchase properties and let them sit idle. And then our solution is to come back and demolish them. That is, in fact, the opposite. We purchased those buildings with the understanding and the inevitability that the Palm Beach Lakes Bridge is going to be expanded. That is the reason for these demolitions. And the reason the agency purchased the building in question, 1220 North Tapadella, which is the contributing structure in question, is because of the activities that were occurring there, and the building actually burned. More importantly, it's already impacted and will be further impacted, as illustrated in the staff report, by the expansion of the bridge. So that is why that structure is coming down. The building that has the nice ornate staircase, that too is going to be impacted by the expansion of the bridge, and all of those properties that we don't own within that particular tract of or span of land. We as an agency appreciate historic preservation. We understand the benefit and the benefit, if you will, of restoring and maintaining the heritage of this neighborhood. That is at the forefront of this agency's mission. And that is just not a characterization, if you will, that applies to this particular section of the city or at the edge of the district itself. The bridge is going to expand, and it is a county project that is going to happen, and we are just trying to facilitate a better outcome. That's my rebuttal.
Okay, thank you. I guess we'll go into executive session. Would anyone like to share their thoughts? This is a challenging case, for sure.
Yeah, I think as was brought up, when we look at demolitions.
Mr. Pickney, can you turn on your camera?
Okay, fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. When we look at demolitions in other historic districts by private individuals, very often the impetus for the tear down of those buildings is, to put it simply, if I could use the word, a selfish one. The individual wants something, and the buildings that we're trying to preserve are kind of getting in the way. Okay, so I can definitely see, applying the standard in those locations to really look askance at demolitions that are not necessary. Here we have a situation where we have a public agency, and that as Ms. Baker was saying, is very much interested in preserving and improving the Northwest Historic District. And I think that here as Ms. Baker had put forth, taking down those buildings would ultimately contribute to the betterment of that district. When you talk about other locations where, saying that the Southland or something like that, where you could put your fist through the wall or something like that, those are issues of to me, of gentrification. Your people are coming in with enough private capital to pour into those locations and improve them, with the idea that sometime in the future, that home would greatly increase in value. Okay, I don't think that option is available in most places in the Northwest neighborhood. Okay, I think that tearing down these places that are, has been said, are places for prostitution and for drug use and for other nefarious activities would in fact be an incentive to a private developer to come in and develop those properties. If you were a private developer and you came in there and you saw what was going on, why would you invest your money there? Okay. I think that by eliminating those places, as much as they were at one time, thriving or of historic interest, it's not happening anymore. And as a result, tearing them down as being recommended by the applicant might do more to improve the Northwest Historic District than leaving them there or trying to spend public funds to relocate them with no place to relocate them. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Pickney. Would anyone else like to share their thoughts?
I think that was very well said. I am somewhat in agreement with the fact that it would be nice to know what's ultimately going to go or be designed for the bridge. I am a preservationist, but I don't think all things need to be preserved, especially just because of a railing. And I think, if we were really trying to preserve these places, we would have probably taken action somehow. I'm not sure how, but quite a long time ago. I've been here 30 years. I've driven by that location thousands of times, and to me, it's never dawned on me that it was historical. That's how bad it's been and how long it's been. So I don't have an issue with these buildings coming down, and I certainly wouldn't suggest someone spend the money to move them. I just don't think it's practical or financially ideal in any way. So those are my comments.
So I think that from the three applications, if we go quickly through them again, the first one is for 4 structures, which 3 of them are contributing structures and 1 is none. And I think that the dilemma here is that we have to do something that we never do, which is approving a demolition without a set of new construction drawings. But we are seeing, where the city is going to. We could put a condition that if a project doesn't move forward, these structures cannot be demolished, right? 632 Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard, that is a non-contributing structure. That is one of the railing, right? But it's non-contributing. And 620 is also non-contributing. So I think that and staff is recommending denial of one of the structures that are non-contributing. The dilemma here is how we can, and I understand, I mean, I understand all the, you know, the people that presented tonight, and I feel with the person that she's feels sad about these tractors gone, and I agree with her. But also I feel with the people that live around this area that is, you know, a dangerous area, you know. I used also to go almost, you know, every week, or, you know, around there. Well, I was not working from home. But I think that the dilemma here is how we approve a demolition of a structure without seeing a new project in stone. Like, you know, this is what we are doing, this is moving forward, this is what is replacing these structures, right? What is in the packet is really exciting, is a nice development, and I look forward for that. It's gonna really improve the area. But I think that that is my dilemma. Setting a precedent for future similar cases, although we can argue that this is a different one since it's a public project for the general benefit, right? So the people in general is going to benefit from it. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
May I just say one more thing to
Yes.
Gabe? I understand what you're saying, but I think you kind of put yourself into a catch-22 situation. Okay, don't tear them down until there's a plan, but there may not be a plan because they're there. So, so you know what do you do? Okay, I think the situation, you know, I don't know. You know, there's a term with it. What would a reasonable person say in a situation like that? I think they use that term in the courts in making certain determinations. What would a reasonable person say about tearing down these buildings that are an eyesore and contribute to crime in an area? Okay. Versus historic preservation, they would say, I would think that, yeah, under ideal circumstances, of course, we want to save these buildings. As historic preservationists, we're against tearing them down. But when you look to the other side, to the benefits that might accrue to the community, and as you mentioned, the people that live there, I think a reasonable person would say, you know, might be a good idea to take them down.
And I agree with you. I'm just, you know, sharing my thoughts with the board to have more material to discuss, right? I mean, it's all on the table to discuss and to make a decision.
Mm-hmm. I would hope other board members would contribute as well. I feel like the big mouth over here.
Does anybody else wish to share their thoughts? My principal issue is with the demolition request for the contributing buildings. I mean, with any other situation, if someone comes forward with an application to request the demolition of a non-contributing building, really there's very little that we can do other than to approve it. So those other two properties are not really an issue for me. The main issue for me is the Sundries building from the 20s. Obviously, those two smaller structures are considered contributing, but I would say that they're fairly nondescript and don't have very many architectural features. So I'd be willing to compromise on the demolition of those. I think that I understand that the argument is made that there's a feeling that it's not the best use of taxpayer dollars to relocate a building, but I would argue that it is a good use of taxpayer dollars to preserve the heritage of this neighborhood. And if you drive through this historic district, there are so many vacant lots, and you know that urban renewal is something that has regularly occurred in this neighborhood for decades. And it makes me very uncomfortable to contribute to that by approving this request. And I would love to see if there would be some way to save this building. It's very difficult. I completely agree that that bridge is long overdue for reinvestment, and I definitely can see the potential on how this area can be redeveloped and really turned into a huge benefit to the community and the neighborhood. But I just am very uncomfortable in principle with approving the demolition of a structure to get there. I almost feel that it should be included in the budget to relocate contributing buildings when a project like this is considered. I'm willing to look past the fact that the plans for the bridge have not been finalized, but I've been on this board long enough that this is not the first time that we've been asked to approve this type of demolition. I remember there were some bungalows just a few intersections. What is that? That would be west of here a few years ago. And what's going to happen when the CRA potentially acquires these other two buildings? They're going to be back again to request demolition. And what is the historic significance of those buildings? And are they contributing? I don't think we were given that information, but that's my concern.
Tell me something, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
I just don't have the maps in front of me. I don't happen to recall. Is the Sundry building located at the south end of that block? And where I'm going with this is that if it's kind of in the middle, if the rest of those buildings were demolished and the agency was able to persuade those other people to sell out, could the Sundry building just be moved down the block? Essentially, it would all be city property, and you would only have to move it a little bit. But that would obviously depend on where it is.
If I may ask, Aaron, could you pull that back up so that we can see which one is identified as the Sundry building? I believe it is the south structure.
Yes, it's building A.
Yep, I'll bring it up in one moment. All right, so the Pine Ridge Sundries building is right here at the corner.
Okay, so that's I mean, that's where the bridge expansion is going to be. So that's the north end. So what I'm saying is, if you were able to demolish everything and just move that building down the block, it would be preserved. And as our chairman has suggested, that there could be funds allocated for restoration or reconstruction at that point. Does that make any sense to anybody?
Yeah, it does. Although I can't, I don't have the authority to say that that is something we would do, but certainly if that becomes a condition of this board, we'd certainly have to consider it. And if the CRA board says absolutely not, I'm not sure what the procedure would be to come back to ask for reconsideration. Maybe perhaps Aaron or Mrs. Mittner can address that. Do we have another bite at this apple?
So if a condition of the board is not possible, then you'd have to come back to the board.
I see.
We would prefer it to be conditioned.
sorry?
I'm not sure if this is helpful, but there is a section in the code in 94-49 that mentions that the board may grant a certificate of appropriateness for demolition that contains a delayed effective date of up to 3 months to allow time for exploring whatever the board deems necessary to preserve a resource, which might include, and it gives examples, consultations with community groups, public agencies and interested citizens, recommendations for acquisition of the property by public or private bodies or agencies, and exploration of the possibility of moving the resource. So that is also an option, is to give a delayed effective date for this certificate of appropriateness for the demolition.
That would at least address our chairperson's concerns and give us, give it a fighting chance, so to speak.
And if I may just comment, I think that would be a great opportunity for me to actually further study the feasibility of doing just that and look at overall how that might fit in with the overall plans for the area. But that would give us an opportunity to move forward with getting those other buildings removed.
Ms. Hare, though, if the clock runs out, it's demolished, correct? After 3 months, if there are no solutions that are proposed, the demolition is granted, correct?
I would assume so. It doesn't state specifically here, but yes, you'd have that certificate that's issued. It has the delayed effective date of, for example, 3 months. And then on that 3rd month, it would become effective and they could move forward with it at that time, unless during that 3-month period, there's some kind of revocation or something of that nature.
Ms. Baker, how would you feel if we continued the case for 1220 North Sapodilla Avenue? And I mean, obviously, this is what I would like to see happen. I can't speak for everyone else, but if we continued the first case for 1221 North Sapodilla Avenue and most likely approved the demolition for the other 2 structures, would that be amenable to you, to give you time to explore an option to relocate the structure within the Northwest Historic District so that it somewhat maintains its historic context?
Yes, but if I may, I would prefer not to continue. I would prefer to have it be a condition of your approval and have us have a requirement that we come back to give you our options and or suggestions of what we would do with that structure. I'd prefer that the board take action tonight so that we can have on the record for county purposes that we are moving forward. And I can commit on the record that we will make a very good faith effort to look at relocation, if not within the site, but within the district itself. And we would come back to you with a presentation of what we found within that 3-month delay, as indicated by the attorney.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Borngraber, did you want to add anything? It looked like you might want to say something.
Yes, Gina already mentioned it in passing. As the overpass will likely expand to the south, it's probably possible for that structure just to be relocated to the alley, right next to the alleyway, or at least meaning some setback, today's codes for setbacks. So it's still being on the same property, that may be possible.
That's what I want to investigate.
And maybe you can take advantage of that, structure and make it part of the new project and make it, nice for the public to enjoy it in some way.
If I may respond, we would, if we go down that path, we would not only be looking at the relocation, but the immediate restoration and rehabilitation of the building and use of it, because it's sitting vacant as it is, creates the problems that were just illustrated by 2 of the surrounding property owners or property residents. So we'd have to look at it holistically.
Correct.
And that's how we would determine whether the feasibility, if you will.
And Mr. Bordengraber, how would we word that motion if we were going to add that stay? What is, Ms. Hare, what is, I guess, is there a formal title for that option within the code, or how would we word that?
I think you would move to approve a certificate of appropriateness for demolition with a delayed effective date of, and you would provide that date or that time period, which can be up to 3 months, it states.
Okay. I would like to see the full 3 months so you have time to really explore your options.
Mhm.
Well, it's not ideal. This is not an ideal situation, but I think it's a step in the right direction, and at least gives a moment for everyone to pause and think about how we might be able to think creatively and find a way to reuse this building and whatever your future plans are. With that, I know we have to go through 3 separate motions. So this condition would apply to the first motion. And so we would be extending it at November, December. So it would be the February meeting, I believe, that you would come back or sooner, whichever. So would someone like to make a motion?
Excuse me, Chair, before a
Yes.
motion is made, as the concern is over the corner building, the former Sundries building, Building A, that was identified in the staff report, the demolition delay probably should only apply to that, and
Yes.
buildings B, C, and D can be demoed tomorrow, essentially.
And may I ask for clarification, then the condition on the non-contributing structure at 632 does not hold, correct? Meaning retaining the stairwell.
I don't know. We didn't talk about that. So what what does everybody feel about that?
I think that the stair needs to be retained. I mean, if you, then not only the handrail, but in some way it has to be, replicated the design in a portion of the new project. If you see it's a center beam with a stair tread cantilevering on both sides, it's a really nice detail. Which Aaron, in which year that was made?
That was built in 1965.
Yeah, it's typical of that moment, of that era, and it's a really cool modern detail for that time. So the whole concept needs to be retained, in my opinion.
So to save the actual feature, or to just have it replicated in a future design for that area?
I think that the handrail itself has to be safe, and the detail has
Not opposed to that.
can be replicated.
I'm not opposed to that. I was just hoping I'd be given some consideration there. That's fine.
So would we like to proceed with the 3 motions?
I would do the first one, but I just, Ms. Hare, what our condition for the certificate of appropriateness? Can you just give me the wording for that? How we would say that? Just say.
I think I would say move to approve a certificate of appropriateness for demolition, which shall not become effective until February 18th, 2020. Is that correct, the date?
2021.
2021, thank you.
Right.
Well, when is our February meeting? Shouldn't we make the effective date correspond with our February meeting? Do we know what that date is?
The February meeting is the 23rd. However, with the demolition delay, it's automatically an approval after the delay expires.
Okay, so how do we rectify that? So the meeting would, Ms. Baker, so the meeting would occur after your demolition goes into effect.
Yeah, and if you do it before then, it's my birthday, and that doesn't matter. Okay. Well, what do you suggest, Board Attorney? Did we do it on the actual meeting date?
It says it says for up to 3 months. It doesn't say you can go 3 months and 2 days.
Can you report back to us at the February meeting then, I guess? We'll delay it for 3 months, but we'll like a report from you, I guess, at the February meeting.
That's a better approach. Actually, my intention is to come to you as soon as I can understand and what's involved in the relocation. I'm leaning towards relocating on the same lot to the rear. And I just need to see what's involved with that. And once I get that understanding, then I can come back pretty quickly and let you know what our outcomes
I'm
are.
sorry, I meant the January meeting, not the February meeting.
In the January meeting. That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Pickney, would you like to proceed with your motion?
Yeah, okay, I hope this works out. I move that the Historic Preservation Board move for a certificate of appropriateness for the, for a demolition certificate for the 3-month period that would end on February 18th, 2021. This motion is based upon testimony presented along with the staff report that competent substantial evidence of record has been submitted that satisfies the standards set forth in the Preservation Ordinance Section 94-49 of the City Zoning and Land Development Regulations for demolition. Was that procedurally correct, Ms. Hare?
You're muted, Ms. Hare.
I think it was understood what you meant. The certificate would not become effective until you can provide the date. If you want to amend your motion and just say the certificate shall not become effective until February 18th.
Now, can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Is this motion including the 4 properties in application 2071, or is just for building A?
Building
I think that needs to be clarified in the motion, that it just applies to that one building.
Okay.
And I think you might need to add the case number. Was the case number included in the motion?
Yeah. I hereby amend the motion to pertain to a case number 20-71, Building A. And that the certificate of appropriateness would end on February 18th, 2021.
Excuse me,
would become effective.
Would become, I'm sorry, become effective. I amend it again, would become effective on February 18th, 2021.
We'll need another amendment, the waiver for new construction.
And again, what?
There is a waiver for new construction required, so the motion needs to be amended again to include that.
Okay. This motion is also amended to waive new construction. Is that?
To waive the requirement for
We
new construction.
waive the requirement for new construction. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Another question.
Oh,
there is a,
you're torturing me.
Yeah, I know. There is a condition of approval from staff for the entire 2071 application for a sign to be installed telling the story of narrating the history of the property. So should we include that one in that also? I think that we should.
I think we should, if in case at the end of 3 months that this building is not ultimately saved, that at least there is.
Yes. As As an additional condition for this motion, there shall be a sign erected that would detail the history of the building.
If it's unable to be saved.
If it's unable to be saved.
Okay. I think we got everything.
I think we got everything.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Hope.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, we've got 1 down, 2 to go.
Excuse me, Madam Chair,
Yes.
that motion was only for building A. So
Oh,
building B,
yes,
C,
you're
and
correct.
D
Okay,
require a motion to also include the waiver if
Okay.
that motion is approved.
Okay, I can do that one, I think. So I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 20-71 for buildings B, C, and D in the application, excluding building A, subject of the previous approval, for demolition in accordance with the demolition guidelines as set forth in the Historic Preservation Ordinance, section 94-49 of the City Zoning and Land Development Regulations. The motion is based on the testimony presented, along with the application submitted and the staff report, which constitute competent substantial evidence. In addition, the approval of this request is made conditional upon the following restrictions, stipulations, and safeguards that are moved are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, section 94-49 of the City Zoning and Land Development Regulations. The condition include the following: a sign shall be installed narrating the history of the property, and this move include the waiver of the requirement for new construction.
do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, would we like to move on to the next case? Motion.
Okay, so that'd be 20-72, and that would be an approval of demolition. Is that correct?
Mr. Borngraver, can you put up on the screen? I believe that one has a condition.
So 2072 would be 632 Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard with the railing. It was actually staff recommended in denial. I did have some language in the PowerPoint regarding preservation, so I'll bring that up for you.
Thank you.
The subject line would be: the property features a unique mid-century modern staircase railing, which staff has determined warrants preservation. And obviously, motion would need to reword that for its intended purpose.
Well, in our discussion, we talked about, I believe we spoke about demolition, but with some future date reconstruction and building that had those features. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
that whatever, I guess, that this feature will be incorporated into plans for new construction on the site. Is that what you had in mind, Mr. Jaroslawski?
I think that the railing has to be salvaged and the detail of the stair has to be replicated.
Gabe, would you mind doing this one then, if you don't mind?
I'll try. So I move the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 20-72 for demolition in accordance with the demolition guidelines as set forth in the Historic Preservation Ordinance, section 94-49 of the city's zoning and land development regulations. The motion is based on the testimony presented along with the application submitted and the staff report, which constitutes competent substantial evidence. In addition, the approval of this request is made conditional upon the following restrictions, stipulations, and safeguards that I move are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, section 94-49 of the city zoning and land development regulations. The conditions include the following: the existing handrail shall be salvaged for future reutilization in the future project, and the stair detail shall be replicated. This move also includes a waiver for approval with no new construction documents.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, and 20-73 is a straight approval for demolition.
Yes, and then also the waiver of the requirement for approval of plans for new construction.
Okay. I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 20-73 for demolition in accordance with the demolition guidelines as set forth in the Historic Preservation Ordinance, section 94-49 of the city's zoning and development regulations. This motion is based on testimony presented along with the application submitted and the staff report, which constitute competent substantial evidence. In addition, there is a condition for the waiver of the requirement for plans for new construction.
We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry.
Aye, aye,
I
aye.
didn't hear all of that.
It's okay.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, motion carries. With that, I think it's time to adjourn the meeting. Can we please have a motion to adjourn?
May I thank the
Oh,
members?
yes, sorry, yes,
I'm
yes.
sorry. I'd like to thank the chair and the members of the board, and I specifically would like to thank Mr. Borngarder for his preparation of this agenda item, and thank you for the walk down history lane. Thank you all. We'll make every effort to preserve 1220, and we'll come back to you with our findings as soon as I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. We really appreciate you working with us on this to try to save this building. We really do. Can we
Right.
have a motion to approve? I'm sorry, a motion to adjourn.
I move the board to adjourn to tonight's meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
Likewise. Happy
Have a
Thanksgiving.
good night.
Be
Good night.
safe.
Bye.
Thank you.